Hi everyone, today PhoneArena is taking a look at some of the similarities and differences between the Samsung Fascinate and the Motorola DROID X. First off, you're going to notice they're both the same color, black overall. The Samsung Fascinate is constructed all out of plastic. It's really slick and really shiny, which means that it's going to be really difficult to keep this clean. Fingerprints are just really attracted to the device, but it does give it a little bit more of a glamorous and streamlined look, almost a iPhone-esque kind of appearance. On the other hand, the Motorola DROID X, same color, but it's actually constructed out of metal, so it does give it a little bit better quality construction on there. So it does feel a little bit durable overall. Size-wise, they're actually the same width, or I'm sorry, depth here, except that the Motorola DROID X does have this bit of a camera hump at the top that's lacking on the Samsung Fascinate. Also, as far as the height, there's only about a 0.10 of an inch difference here. So overall, not a whole lot difference in their size, but when it comes to the screen, the Samsung Fascinate has a 4-inch Super AMOLED display, while the Motorola DROID X is a 4.3-inch TFT display. Both are WVGA resolution. Of course, the Super AMOLED display on the Samsung Fascinate is going to have a lot more saturated colors, better looking images and things like that, but the Motorola DROID X, the TFT, actually seems a little sharper. It's especially noticeable when viewing small text, mostly in web pages, but that's pretty much what the difference is here with the display, 4-inch compared to a 4.3-inch. Also, along the sides of the phones, you have your standard ports and volume rocker, camera key. On the DROID X, most noticeably have the micro HDMI output. On the bottom, you also have your function keys. On Samsung Fascinate, they're capacitive, touch sensitive, which means when you're using the phone, you really got to be careful where you put your hand, as it's pretty common to accidentally press these keys, especially when using the phone in a landscape mode here for doing web pages or typing in messages. Motorola DROID, on the other hand, has actual physical buttons on the bottom that you actually have to press down to get a response. We like this better, as it's a lot less impossible to have accidental presses. So other than that, they're pretty similar with their overall design. Moving into the software, the Samsung Fascinate is currently running Android 2.1 with Samsung's TouchWiz 3.0 interface. Meanwhile, the Motorola DROID X has recently been updated to Android 2.2, but still is utilizing some of the elements of the Moto Blur. On the Fascinate, you have a total of 7 home screens on the device. You also have 7 home screens on the Motorola DROID X. That's pretty similar here. As far as the application launch, seeing the Samsung Fascinate, it shows all of the pre-installed applications first, and you actually have to swipe side to side. Then after it shows all the pre-installed applications, it then lists the ones that you've downloaded and installed. We're not really a fan of this. We more prefer the list vertical style on the Motorola DROID X, as it lists everything full alphabetically, and it's a little bit easier just to scroll up and down on it than side by side on the Samsung Fascinate. Also on the home screen, you'll notice here that on the Fascinate you have 4 quick launch buttons at the bottom for the phone contacts, messaging, and applications. While on the Droid X, it's just the phone dialer, the app drawer, and the contacts over here. Both devices also have a selection of widgets. The Samsung Fascinate has a large selection of clocks, as well as different calendars, feeds and updates that basically connect to your social networking. Let's see, here's one right here. With the Motorola DROID X, it does a little bit better with its widgets for the home screen. Has some toggle buttons, as well as a calendar and different ones for social networking and widgets. Between the two, we do think that the Motorola DROID X does do a better job with its widget implementation than the Samsung Fascinate, but still doesn't really compare to the Sense UI widgets that are found on the HTC devices. Both devices do well when it comes to the web browser, but as you can see, the larger 4.3-inch screen on the Droid X does make web pages a little bit easier to see due to the larger screen size. Both of them you can pinch to zoom, as well as doing double tapping. Web pages are loaded pretty identical, just about as they would appear on a normal PC. One of the differences here is that the Droid X now has the Flash 10.1, which works really well. Pretty much all Flash content works. Some streaming sites like Hulu still seem to have problems, but other than that, interactive web pages and even YouTube streams directly in web pages work really well with it. The Samsung Fascinate has the less capable Flash Lite, which is kind of touch and go as far as what it is capable of working on. But other than that, both do a good job with the web browser experience. Like we said earlier, one of the main differences that we noticed is that a really small text in web pages is a lot sharper, clearer, and not as jagged as small text is on the Samsung Fascinate. So if you do a lot of web browsing, you might want to check that out. That the Droid X is probably going to be a little bit easier to read and a little bit easier to make out. Both the gallery on the Samsung Fascinate and Motorola DROID X are pretty similar, as you can view your images and videos in them. Of course, the 4.3-inch display on the Motorola DROID X gives you a little bit more real estate here, but the Super AMOLED display on the Samsung Fascinate, it's almost like watching a miniature plasma display. So we're going to show our Monsters versus Aliens clip, and you can clearly see the difference between the two. For taking your own pictures, the Motorola DROID X has a 8 megapixel autofocus camera with a dual LED flash, while the Samsung Fascinate is 5 megapixel autofocus with a single LED flash. Now, when viewing the images on the phone's display, pictures do look a little bit better on the Samsung Fascinate because of the Super AMOLED display, but when transferred to your PC, actually the pictures that were took by the Motorola DROID X actually seem better. Color representation is a lot more accurate, as well as it has a better white balance to it, as well as being sharper and clearer. Also, images from the Samsung Fascinate also seem to have a bit of a haze to them, pretty much straight through. So Unfortunately, for the Samsung Fascinate, the Droid X does do better with the images. Also, for night images as well, the Droid X, the dual LED flash, does illuminate rooms and people a lot more than the single LED flash on the Motorola DROID X. For call quality, both devices do really well, as there's no static or background noise. The Motorola DROID, however, actually does a little bit better with calls, as voices sound a little bit natural on both ends. It also has the noise cancellation mic, so when you're talking to people, the reception and call quality on their end is going to be a little bit better. As far as the signal reception on the phones, they're pretty equal, but still seems like the Motorola DROID X is getting a little bit better signal reception. So when it comes down to choosing the phone that's right for you, it's usually personal preference. The Samsung Fascinate is definitely the more stylish of the two phones, but we don't really like the plastic construction with the fingerprints always getting all over it. We kind of like the more metal construction of the Droid X. Also, it's a bit easier to hold with the soft touch coating on the back. It gives a little bit more of a grip, where the Samsung Fascinate is always feeling slippery, like it's about to slip out of our hands. Display, of course, the Super AMOLED on the Samsung Fascinate. Images, colors are really going to be popped. They're almost a little bit oversaturated, but still advantage there, whereas the Motorola DROID X, the larger 4.3-inch display on that, is also really nice. And like we said, the web pages with smaller text is going to be sharper and easier to read on the screen on the Droid X. Both devices are also pretty fast. They both have a 1 gigahertz processor in them, and both phones also come with a 16 gigabyte micro SDHC memory card. They're also listed currently for the same price by Verizon. It's $199 after a rebate with a 2-year contract. So both phones have a lot to offer. Between the two, we kind of like the Motorola DROID X. Like we said, that's personal preference. So be sure to check them out, and check our website at PhoneArena.com for a more in-depth look at both devices.